Hello, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me here today. It's quite interesting that everyone is around. Pretty much happy that we have everyone on board right here um, in this training. Um, okay, I don't know. Let me know if you can hear me now. Let me know if you can hear me. You can just chat with boss. Let me do a check right here. Yeah, it's good that we're around. I don't know. I just have to wait for few people to get in while we kickstart. And please, if you have any issues with communications, okay, and you can't actually hear what I'm saying, please let me know in the chat below. All right, and then I'll be able to come back around and see um, what's happening. Okay, I don't know how much is the lag. Okay, but then I should still be able to get your message and try as much as possible to come back and check the reason why we have those issues coming up. So yeah, today we want to do a final touch on trend lines and see how we can look for opportunities when it comes to trend lines and how we can actually take advantage of trend lines. Knowing fully well that when it comes to trend lines in the forex market, these are market that move from one point to the other. Okay. While I'm doing that and getting ready, let me just grab my pen so we'll be able to do pretty much analysis. All right. Yeah. I don't know, Olade, are you okay now with the audio? Are you okay with the audio now? Can you hear me right now? Okay. Let me know if you can. And if you still have challenges, also let me know. All right. Okay, let me know if you still have issues with audio. Okay, but then if audio is fine, so we don't need to wait too much long because data is actually running out. For those who have issues with data, we can proceed, and while we wait for others to come in and join us. All right. So what is trend line? We talked about what trend line is, and how we can take advantage of how we can draw our trend lines uh, on the part one of trend lines. But then because of few people who have issues with actually looking into trend lines, we decide to take it up again and see how we can help every one of us to have better understanding of what trend line is and how you can actually draw them. All right. So all right, trend lines. When you're drawing your trend lines, basically, we discussed the last time that you want to connect the as much you want to do a connection. Let me take this, use the better one. Let's use black. Okay. Um, you want to connect you want to connect many dots as you can. Okay, you want to do much connection, but it's far from actually connecting, just drawing a line, and you want to connect all those reference points. It's more than just you doing that. First and foremost, when we were discussing about true support and resistance, we actually pointed out that we only want to look for areas that creates panic, okay? Areas that creates panic in the market. So if we can get areas that create panic in the market, uh, those areas become memorable areas. So those memorable areas are areas where we want to look at as support and resistance line. Okay, and if those areas are there, what then do we need to look for? You need to look for reactions in the market, certain reactions in the market. So also you want to look inwards for the same with trend lines when it comes to trend lines. Now, let's take for instance, you have a vehicle that is moving at this speed, okay? And when the vehicle start moving, you have a speed bump that did this to a vehicle, all right? Do you want to call this area through support and resistance? And after the small movement in market, you had this movement, okay? Now, do you want to recognize this area? Do you think the big guys is going to recognize this area as true support and resistance? Absolutely no. Okay. Now, if the big boy is less concerned about this area, so should we be less concerned, because those areas does not hold grounds. All right. Now, and let me just point few of them out right in the chart we have right here. Okay, we have market starts moving from this area, all right, to the downside, and we have this one green bar into that area. Now, because this green bar did this, can we call that true support and resistance? And right after that area, look at what price did. Price broke down into that area. But then when price broke into that area, what happened next? That is where you want to have your concern with. Okay? Price was moving at a fast speed. And then you have um, a stoppage at one point that did practically 10% of the move that uh, the big guy did, that the price did. Will you at first want to consider that area as an area where support and resistance is? Will you want to draw your support and resistance around that area? Absolutely no, because that area at the first instance does not hold ground. But then after that area, after they pull in that area, what happened next? That is what should come to your mind. That is what we want to look after. So after a particular move in the market and you had a stop, the stop is not the first thing you should consider. The first is the stop is not something you should actually pull all your minds at. But then what your mind should go through is after the stop, what happens? What happens? What happens after the stop? That is where our mind should go to. Did we see a continuous move of the big guy in play? Did we see price actually coming in strong again after that stop? So that should be what should stick on our mind when we have a true support and resistance. So if price decide to break low, okay, let's just have this, and you had this top and price moved down, but then the move the guy did with the equivalent of what he did the last time, you could see some sense of sluggishness in his move. Then you begin to have a proper understanding that why are you not moving just like you did the first time? Why are you not running? Why are you not pulling through when you did your first move? Okay, you want to find out why is there a form of sluggishness in your second move in relative with your first move, okay, and then you see price start heading up, okay, into that area. Now at that point, can we now consider this area as true support and resistance? Absolutely yes. Why? Because that area is being tested, and you can see some level of restriction around that area, okay, some level of hold up around that area, some level of no, I want to move, no, you can't go, struggling around that area. It shows that that area becomes valid, that area becomes strong. But when it first happened, we won't have concluded and say, well, that area is probably a very strong area for support and resistance. All right. Now, same is applicable to when you are looking into your trend lines. All right, we want to only filter out areas that holds value, areas that has true support and resistance. Let me clean up this and we'll move into, gradually you begin to have some nice concept of what true support and resistance is, what you want to be looking at. Let me give you another example into that. Now we have price moved into this area, okay. The speed of the market, very nice, all right. And we had this little move into that area, but then after that move, you had this pullback. Now price shows you that after the small bumps that stopped the big guy, at initial stage, we don't recognize that bumps. We don't take note of that bumps. That bumps is not valuable to us. It's not important to us. All right. And when that area is not important to us, we want to continue to further test those areas. But then you have market drive in again. All right. And when market drove in, what happens then? You have this pullback. Now, after that area, you could see that price is finding it very difficult to actually get into that area, to continue his move down. What should come to our mind when price reacts like that? Then it gives us a concern that we're probably in a support and resistance zone. But then what happens here? What should be our reaction to this guy that came out of that region? Is that guy worthy of recognition? It really shows that that guy never happened. This area never occurred. If you go to an higher time frame, probably you will see something like an exhaustion candle. Okay, that area never existed. So if this area is not recognized, if the area is not important to us, is not important to the big guy, then why should we take cognizance of that area when we are doing our support and resistance or when we want to draw our trend line? All right, and this is what you need to look out for when you are doing your support and resistance, when you want to draw your support and resistance. Please hold on, let me just get back. All right, sorry. I just need to. All right. Okay, now when you have that concept of what true support and resistance is, okay, we want to only filter out areas of importance to us. Let me just make this a little bit bigger, and I'll be able to do justice more. All right. Now, we have this guy coming into this area. You can see this move down into this area. All right. And price moved this much. And when price moved this much, we saw price came down into that area. What happens after price came into this area? We couldn't see probably price heading down again. Well, price was not going down again. Markets, the big guy or the guy who is doing this guy is not pulling into that area again. What comes to our mind is probably that um, there's something holding around that area that seems not to be valid. And when that occurs, we need to start looking for our dots, right? And those areas is areas where we want to actually point out, all right? So now let me look into this area and see. Now we have price actually pulling into that area, okay? Price came in into that area, went up, came back into that area, but then we couldn't see a new lower low into the market. And each time price begins to jump up, we have an higher high here, you have another higher high here, you have another higher high here, all right? And each time price comes back, this area becomes respected. This area becomes valuable. But then when price came into this area, what happens? You see, price still respecting that area. We have respect for that area. Though price is not touching almost 100% of those areas, but then price is being respected at one point or the other. Then you have an understanding that this area becomes valid. All right, you have this touch, you have this touch, and this area becomes valid. But then, I told you that if um, our big guy that did this move and went up this much came down into this area, but then the last move could not is not equivalent to the initial move he did. But then right back then, price drove back in, and you have this area. Initially, we couldn't consider this area as true support and resistance until we have this guy coming in and doing this same thing again. This gives us a better clue of where our true support and resistance is. That this area is not valid. When this area is not valid to the big guy, it shouldn't be valid to us as traders. All right. Now you have price drove in into this area, and right there you have price went back up. What happens? What comes to our mind in this area? Is this area valid for the big guy? And you can see after, price went into that area, hold again, and price started reacting again. What happens to this guy that shoot down into this area? This is just a faker. Okay? It never existed. It wasn't considered by the big guy. So if it is not considered by a big guy, we shouldn't take cognizance of it when you are drawing your support and resistance. Okay, now let me clean up this chart and let's do a little bit more analysis. Now, if I'm going to draw my support and resistance and I just pick the tail and I just drew my support and resistance towards this area, I only have one and I only have two. Does this area shows validity to me? Probably I'm just waiting and say, okay, well, because I've been able to connect these areas alone, if price fall down into this area, I'm going to buy it. But then, price never came into that area. What happened? Why is price not coming into this area? Because this area is not valid. Now, if you take the wrong step, the wrong analysis to your trade, no matter how you try to paint it nice, it's always going to be wrong. Why? Because your first step is wrong. First and foremost, when you want to connect your dots, you want to only recognize areas that are valid, areas that shows concern to the big guy. If that area shows concern to the big guys, we also have to give recognition to that area. But then, if the big guy on the platform is not recognizing that area, so should we not. We should not give recognitions to that area. Now let me make it a little bit simple. We have price doing this whole stuff. You can see price doing this whole stuff. Now look at this, wow, very nice candle. Or don't let's take it to that extent. All right. Okay. We have price doing this move, all this move, and we have this one candle coming in. All right. And after that candle came in, you have this price broke down into this region. And gradually, price came into that area. And would you have been able to say at first that this area is a resistance area? Would you conclude and say, well, because this green candle came out, that area is a resistance area? Would you have done that? No. For you to have done that, if you have done that, probably you have just done that blindly because of you have not given cognizance to this guy that is traveling far, that had the speed in hand, that has the whole money in his hand. All right. So if you just blindly and say because of one candlestick, that is our support and resistance area, or that is our resistance area, then you might have given proper cognizance to that area. You need more data, you need more information as to which area becomes valid and which area is not valid. All right. So after that, you see price drove in back into this area to get rid of this conception. For so many people, they think that area, oh, well, because price came back, that area we should just start connecting our dots, and that area is a resistance line. No. But then when price went back into this area, look at this candle and look at this candle. And after price went back, you have those area and price went back up. All right. Price did went back up, and on this green candle you have the red candle coming down, and you expect the red candle to just move down into this area to connect our support and resistance. But then price didn't do that. You have this. You have this move, and price did this. Why did our price stop at this area? Why did market stop at that area? We need you to do a little bit of lower low. Continue to move lower in the market. Alright? But then price did this and stopped at that area. And since then price has always been coming and that area has seemed to be valid. Alright? Then what happens to this area? What happens to that area? That area never existed. Because that area never existed, we should not give cognizance to it. Now you should have a better picture of where uh, you have your support and resistance, where your trend line holds, at what area do you need to draw your trend line, what area is it, do I need to connect the tail or do I need to connect the body? When you have this concept build up, one thing that I've always done when it comes to my trading is that you always see me sometimes when I share my signals, you see my trend line actually going through the body of some, and my trend line going to the tail of some, and my trend line going to on top of the body of some. Now, these all concepts build up together will give you an idea to which area is important to the big guy. If that area is important to the big guy, so should we be concerned about those areas when it comes to drawing our trend lines. Okay? If the big guy is not respecting that area, then why should we respect the area? If the big guy is not giving cognizance to that area, then why should we give cognizance to it? So these are how you need to look at the market. You need to look for areas that memorable, areas that has importance, that had importance to the big guy. Now, price came in. Let me just clean this up. You could see price we expected that area. This area becomes non and void, and since then price has seen hold on that area. Do we have, can we say this is our trend line? Now you know what trend line is. Trend line is when you have your higher high and your higher low, and when you have your lower high and your lower low. That is trend line. Either which way it is, you have your trend line when it comes price. Okay, so you have your trend line around that area, and when it comes like that, so you have sorry, let me just do that. You have upward trend. Okay, price went up, came down, price went up, came down, price went up, came down, price went up. And when you have your downtrend, you have um, lower high, lower low, lower high, low, lower high, lower low, and this gives you your trend line. So when you have an upward trend and you have downtrend, okay, so these are what you need to have understanding about. Okay, and when you have a straight line, you have your support at below. When you have it at the top, you have your resistance. So these are areas when you need to then, but then if we have that concept now, with that concept we are able to draw out this. Can we say this is a trend line? Can we say that is a trend line? You have this touch, you have this touch, you have this touch, and some never touched. You have the tail touching. Now this broke through. What happens to this area? Area never existed. It wasn't. taking recognition from the big guy. So if it doesn't take recognition from the big guy, then why should we give cognizance to it? Why should we respect it? Why should we appreciate it? Why should we give whole concern to it and say, well, because that area came out, that should be our area of importance. But then after that, price never came into that area, respected this area and start driving back up. All right. So these are how you actually filter out where you need to draw your trend line. So I hope that explained that concept. Now, um, then if you have an idea of how you need to draw your trend line, then how do you take advantage of your trend line? How do you start um, taking advantage of your trend line? How do you make money using your trend line? All right. So I remember that I drew in my chart this, and then I was picturing this to be a very nice trend line for me. All right. Now, why was this very important? You have price touching this area, you have price touching that area, you have price coming around, touching these areas and touching these areas, and price also still respecting that area. Okay, and eventually we have this breakout into that area. And what comes to my mind is we have that area and price should respect that area, but price broke in into that area. Now, listen to me, guys. This is where you need to do your homework right. Now, we've done the first assignment when it comes to analyzing which area becomes valid and which area is not valid. All right. Now, remember that we said this area to the big guy is not valid. It's just a faker. It never existed. And rightly, we've been able to see that those areas never existed. So then, when you have this price drove in, a lot of people will say, well, trend line not valid. Trend line rejected. This trend line, this downward trend line is not valid. Okay? And when you see that, if you don't do your thorough homework as to where is important and where is not important, then you might actually be missing out of the whole concept in drawing your trend line. Now, you could see price came in and immediately price went back up. Okay, now a lot of people will say because price came in, now everybody sell your damn house, sell everything you have, and you can see from that. Let me just take this a little bit back. You could see this exhaustion candle, that green exhaustion candle right there. Okay, a lot of people will say trend line invalid. All right, but then they didn't do their thorough homework as to knowing which area is valid and to know which area is not valid. Everybody will start selling from here, but what happens again? Price went back up into the area. Okay, when price went back up into the area, you have price coming back respecting that trend line. Then what happens to this area again? Can you see how we doing our homework and trying to do our connection, connecting the dots? Can you see how those areas are important? Can you see how we are giving cognizance to those areas? And drawing our trend line alone give us this pitch. And here still pointing out to us that this area never existed when we drew our downtrend line. And price came in, we expected that area, and what happened? Price went back up. Okay, now for a lot of people who are not patient, now I took a trade when I saw this. I took a trade around this area, and when I took a trade, price went back up into this area for me to take profit, just a short profit into that area. Okay, and I did took a profit from there. But then we want to see how trend line becomes very important, and when you see a breakout in trend line, how do you take your trades using trend line? It's a very strong breakout strategy. When price started moving, the analysis is just simple. Let's assuming price is going up, you have price pull back down, price make an higher high, you have price coming into this area again and price make an higher high. But then when price make an higher high, you see the next move, price seems not to be doing very well again, all right? And you have your trend line, drawing your trend line, connecting your dots, okay? Now, this area for you is important, this area for you is important, this area for you is important. But then you want, the idea there is that price should continue to head to the upside, right? Everybody wants to continue to buy. The big guy wants to continue to make money. He wants to continue to get influx of money into his account. But then the big guy that is doing this seems not to be making a new high, and you have price coming into that area. Eventually price broke into that area. Now when price broke in, this gives you enough edge. If you have followed my rubber band man theory, stating that when there is um, the initial percentage of the move up and the pullback is having equivalent to the percentage of your move up, it shows that the guy that is buying is one, is either is taking out his money, or the guy that is competing with him on the other side, the guy that is selling with him is actually having enough money, because when price start moving, for competition to come in, you need someone who has enough amount of money to challenge the performance of the guy that is moving, the big guy that is running. So all these concepts, you have all these concepts, you have all these concepts move. Now, for someone to do all this and stopping the process of all this downward move shows that this guy that is doing this process, this whole process, has enough money in his account to challenge this move, this very nice move going down. Now, if that guy is challenging the move of the big guy, we also have to give cognizance that, hey, you're following the wrong guy. The guy that's coming in again has more money, has more power, has more momentum, okay, has strength within his balls, okay, and this guy could take this guy out. If you could take this guy out and do all this, he has probability to pull back up into this area. All right. So when you have that breakout, you want the guy to do a retest. Most times you don't always have a retest of power. Okay. Sometimes you don't have a retest of power, but then if you don't have a retest of power, you could still manage to take more pips from that move and still want to actually get into the price. But then when a breakout happens, you should wait for a retest to confirm that that guy has actually break out. When a retest is not breaking into the trend line to create a new higher high, it shows that this guy that is doing all this is dead. This is your opportunity to get into the price, and price will start heading back down. Now, this strategy works a lot. Okay, most times it works. If you get it right and you get it set up properly, you could take a lot of pips using that strategy. All right, these are a basic analysis, basic concept of the market. The guy that is buying is rather not having enough to continue his buy, and the guy that is selling to him has more money in his disposal to sell all the stuff that he has. Or the guy that is buying is actually tired of buying. He has information and saying, well, because the market is going to crash soon, all right, I need to stop buying. All right. I need to stop buying. I don't need to buy again. I need to withdraw all my cash. I need to keep all the money that I have and let the market go. So, and once that happens, you find a breakout out of a momentum move to the upside, and immediately you see the price keeps crashing down. And that is the area you want to get involved with. That is the area you want to find yourself in. Now, I've told you several times that when you are when you want to trade the forex market, you don't sell to the sellers. Okay, you want to buy from the sellers, and you want to sell to the buyers. All right. So you want to buy from the sellers and you want to sell to the buyers. So when you have that same concept, let's assume we have this breakout strategy and we had a breakout right here, and you have an entry with this nice exhaustion candle and price start heading up. Price head up to the upside, you have a pullback. This is an opportunity to do what? To take more pips. Why? Because of you're looking at this seller. You're not interested in selling with him, selling to the seller. You're interested in what? Buying from uh, buying from the seller. And once you get your analysis right, you could take a lot of pips into the upside. So I hope we've been able to do a couple of justice to trend lines. If you have any question and you want me to actually give answers to them, so probably let me just use this as a tip of the iceberg for you guys. All right, rather, let me just do this. Okay, you have that. You expect price to probably price should break out of this area and come into this area, then we'll be able to have further upward trend. So for me, if I get a breakout from here, I'll be looking for this area to do my to continue my buy. So those are how to take more advantage when it comes to trend lines. All right. So if you have questions, you can throw them in, and I'll be able to give answers to them before we call it quits. Yeah, so let me just hold on a little bit. I know there are lags in the recording. Okay, I want to believe that is understandable for you. I hope I've been able to break it down a little bit for you to understand. So, if you're looking for opportunities to trade more, basically you look for trend lines. Now, if you see my analysis for last week, this week, yeah, this week thereabout, you will see that all my trades, all my analysis has been trend lines, trend lines, trend lines, trend lines. And you could see some potential breakout in the trend lines, and we're able to take opportunities. If you get your trend lines right, you can make enough profit from it. So that says it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this training today. So if you have questions, you can still roll them in. I'll probably give answers to them, hopefully. Then you also would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We give um, forest content in our YouTube channel, and we explain deep, make it simple. We make the forex knowledge simple for everyone. So, and if you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up, and we hope to do more when the time permits. So thank you very much. I wish you guys all the best, and I hope you have a trading week ahead. All right, thank you. Have a nice